my average day would be I'd go in probably around noon and get on the phone and not get off the phone. I would, you know, it was back then it was one phone call waiting, and I would never hang up the phone because there would always be somebody on the other line waiting, and I would just do that and smoke way too many cigarettes and drink pots and pots and pots of coffee and sit in an office that was half the size of this space, was probably from here over. That was that whole wall tapes, this whole wall tapes, a computer, and a big gigantic mess, and then stacks and stacks and stacks of just, you know, contracts and the stuff, you know, the stuff that the record companies would send you, you know, the promo stuff.
It happened to be a moment where Mag had very good taste, listened to a lot of stuff, helped a ton of local bands.
I just remember the whole process of a show. I mean, you know, let alone like doing the show, you'd also go to the Uptown Kinko's, you know, which is like a block away. And I remember they used to have this really cool printer that you could do blue or red besides just black and white. This is pre-color copies, you know. And, you know, you'd make these cool posters and you'd go around Uptown and put them on poles. And it was like, it was great. You know, it was really cool. It felt grand, you know, to be a part of like playing there and being in this neighborhood that was related to it. And
it's like the weirdest club to load into, but really you kind of got to pull into the back, and by the dumpsters there's like room for one car, which if it's icy can be really intense. And there's this sort of, there's like, honestly, it's like half of a door. And it opens, maybe the full door opens, but because the stage is 4 feet off the ground, there's just between the top of the door and the stage to like pick up all your stuff and push it in to the back of the stage.
They never had a place for you to put your gear when you weren't playing, when it was time for the other band to go. So everything would always be like sort of placed up in that corner by the bathrooms, by the women's bathroom, and just sort of an awkward location.
That the thing that we enjoyed the most was inviting people down to downstairs where the dressing room was, which we referred to as the hospitality tent.
I remember thinking that being backstage, like when I was in high school, that would be something, you know, exotic and cool. And gosh, in the basement of the Uptown, it was just like, you know, cases of ketchup and...
And people were invited down to the hospitality tent to have a beer. And if they were playing with us, they had a special distinction. We would say, "Welcome to Valhalla."
The places that their basement looks like this, they normally are just like, we don't have a backstage.
And explain to people that the basement of the Uptown bar was rock and roll Valhalla, and they might as well just enjoy it.
Then I remember being down there with the cows, you know, and those guys were just, you know, before they went on stage, and they were just, you know, like these, you know, feral punk rock guys ready to, you know, rumble.
By the way, Valhalla was, you would be sitting around with like cases of mustard and olives and stuff like that. So that's what heaven looks like, is canned food, industrial-sized canned food, and lots of it.
I can remember going up the steps on the right side of the stage. And, you know, you'd come up the steps from the basement, and you'd hope that there was like a lot of people there, and you'd hear people walking around, and you know, usually there was, you know, and it would feel great, and you'd kind of get excited.
And the stage is just such an odd little, it's almost like a crawl space. You know, it's elevated, it's off the ground, and the ceiling's really low. I felt like I was always sort of like eye level with the ceiling, looking out into the crowd.
They put a big window in on the side of the stage to the left, and it looked out on like a parking lot. I think it's still there. And, you know, you'd see some people out there. Like sometimes it'd be younger kids, you know, and that would always be really exciting because you'd feel like you were a part of something that was happening.
The technical side of things, overhead monitors, genius. It's like right in your face, you know? It's like wearing a set of headphones.
Sounded good in that little room.
The sound system was terrible, you know, just barely good enough, really, to play decent shows there.
My first experiences there were as a singer in a band, Laughingstock, and we have the dubious distinction of being unplugged 4 times in a row for volume.
I had a signal that I would give to Marv almost always during the last set. And the signal was this. And Marv knew that that meant 2 special exports to the stage immediately. And, you know, they would just get handed over the crowd up to the stage, which was very courteous. You know, nobody ever stole one, or as far as I saw, and I was watching carefully, ever took a sip. So those bottles would arrive intact.
To illustrate how bad the sound system was, at the end of the show, you know, I was soaking wet and out of breath and, you know, hopefully at the peak of the night. And I hollered into the microphone, "Watch out for the black ice," you know, because all day on the radio they had been talking about accidents due to black ice on the highways. And the crowd kind of went quiet, and there's like an awkward, kind of odd moment. And then it just kind of went back, and I was kind of like, huh, that was kind of a lame ending. And I later found out that it sounded like I said, "Watch out for the black guys." And it was just a bizarre thing, and that's just how bad the sound system was, you know? It was just like muted and muffled and terrible.
One of the bouncers pushed our drummer down those stairs, and he flew down, and it's like 1 a.m. I'm poking this huge bouncer in the sternum. I'm going, "That's assault and battery, and I'm going to get you."
Don't have the burger before you go on stage, especially if you're a drummer, which I am, because you won't play as well. You have to play really slow tempo.
By the way, in those days we blew pretty loud. Bruce and I were playing out of Marshall half stacks, and Dave had his big kit, and it was like boom, 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 pretty loud. In fact, Bruce liked to play so loud that one night I made a special microphone for him that was actually a hunk of a broomstick with some tin foil wrapped around the end and then a piece of string off the back. And I explained to him that it was a special microphone that would make him sound even better than the way he usually sounded.
Was on the stage, kind of, you know, getting ready to play, making sure my guitar was in tune, and I looked out and I recognized this guy walking around the crowd, and you could tell that the people he passed were like looking at him and pointing at him, but I couldn't place it. And then after the show, I realized it was Nigel Harrison, the bass player from Blondie.
There was always some very fun sort of back and forth between McClellan and I as to, like, you know, who should be playing where and when. And Steve McClellan, who used to book First Avenue, who did for many, many, many years, and who has been a huge force in the Minnesota music scene for a long time. We used to have, our relationship is always that we argued. We love each other dearly, and we will fight till the day we die. And we would have huge fights about, you know, who's playing when, who's playing where, what are you doing having the Jayhawks on? I've got them next month. And
It seemed like, I don't know, I mean, you'd have to talk to Steve and Maggie, but I always sort of sensed that they worked together.
we would book, and then we'd get on the phone and yell at each other. Fairly good-naturedly for the most part.
It was socialism, basically. It was rock club socialism. No, I thought they kind of did well together that way.
You knew that you were really starting to really kind of do well locally when Steve and I would start fighting over you.
When you climb onto the stage from that moment to the end, you want a certain thing to happen. But at the Uptown, you would feel okay to maybe just, you know, wander, you know, which was kind of cool. And I think that speaks a little bit to its vibe.
I don't know how to say this without sounding really vain, because I don't mean it that way, but I think that I saw most of the local bands as sort of, in a weird way, a personal project. Just in the sense of, I just saw the whole community as something that needed to be nurtured and taken care of. And it was easy to do, because like I say, you know, everyone was so connected, from the record stores to, you know, to the people that were producing music, to people that were, you know, in the studio, to, you know, people that were booking bands, to just big fans. You know, it was a big, huge group effort.